Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trucking Tower podcast and this sales tip segment. I'm very excited to be joined today by Salz, who is the best-selling author of Sales Differentiation. How are you doing today, Lee?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. You know, you and I were talking before the recording, and I learned about an awesome story involving your inspiration for sales differentiation. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So I'm going to turn back the clock a bit. We're going to go back to the 1980s when I was a teenager. Okay. So Andy, I had this family friend who had this novel idea. Remember, it's the 1980s, right, which was dry cleaning transportation. He didn't own a dry cleaner, but where I lived in New Jersey, he said, you know, so many people commute to New York City, and gosh, it was almost a 2-hour commute each way. I bet they would appreciate having their dry cleaning left on the doorstep dirty, coming back clean. Mm-hmm. So he built this business around transportation. And Andy, guess what? He hired me as his driver. This is my summer job.
Okay.
And I was intrigued. I was thinking, would people pay more for this? Because it was a layer on top of the dry cleaning. It wasn't the same price. Would people pay more for this? And Andy, what do you think the answer was?
I think probably so.
The answer was some people. Some people.
Mm-hmm.
So those who commuted to the city and didn't have a way to get their clothes to and from the dry cleaner saw a lot of value in having that service. But those who either didn't have that commute or had a way to get their clothing to and from the dry cleaner saw no value in it. And so at a very young age, I learned the importance of having a target client profile, because so often salespeople, when they're in deals, they get frustrated because they're getting squeezed on price. And oftentimes the reason is it's not the right prospect for you. They don't have the challenges, the pain that would help them to see the value in what you're offering. So again, as a teenager, I learned, okay, you need to know your audience. You need to understand those who will see value in what you're offering if you're going to be able to justify that price point.
Right. Absolutely. You know, I'm a big proponent of leading with value, and you have to. And in this digital world, people look for that on your profile, on your website. They want to see value. And if they don't find value, they're probably going to move on. So
absolutely.
You know, unrelated to business.
Okay.
What is one thing people probably don't know about you that they may be surprised to learn about you?
How about that I'm a competitive power lifter?
Nice.
Andy, this coming Saturday, I am competing in the Minnesota State Bench Press Tournament.
Nice.
I've done it for a number of years. I had a pause a few years ago. I completely ruptured my triceps on New Year's Eve day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And the surgeon who operated on me said, you're done with powerlifting forever. Now, I've been a lifter since I'm about 18 years old. I competed in bodybuilding when I was younger, and I've been competing in powerlifting since, 2000. So I was devastated to hear that, and I decided I wasn't going to listen to it. I may have heard it, but I wasn't going to listen to it. So I worked my way back, and the plan on Saturday is to have a new personal record post-surgery.
Nice. So you're fully recovered and competing again.
I am. And I actually sent a note to that surgeon just the other day saying, I know you said I couldn't do it anymore, but I'm back.
You beat the odds.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. I love that. So, you know, what are some of the key challenges that you see companies facing today?
Yeah, so you have a more sophisticated buyer, not more educated. I'll come back to that in a second. But a more sophisticated buyer. And the differences in the competitive landscape from one provider to another have become narrower and narrower. And salespeople are struggling, like, what do I do? Because they look at what they have to offer relative to the competition, and they say, it's such nuance. It's so narrow. And I'm expected to win at these price points, right? They have opportunities to differentiate how they sell, not just what they sell. And that is such an important point to leverage. And would you like me to share an example, Andy?
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So we were talking earlier, my son is a college baseball player. He plays for Augsburg University, sophomore. First pitch he saw this year, he hit a home run 400 feet, 3-run home run.
Nice.
And it got me to reminisce, Andy. I started thinking about the recruiting experience that he went through a few years ago. And if you've ever been through a college recruiting experience before, you know it's a sale. These colleges, these coaches are trying to sell you on their institution, but they can't differentiate what they sell, right? A coach can't add a major, can't move a dorm, can't build a new campus. It just is. So the sole set of tools that they have to work with is sales differentiation in how you sell. And Andy, some of these coaches were absolutely fantastic at it, and some failed miserably in how you sell. So let's talk a little bit about the what you sell side of the equation. That's understanding what your differentiators are, why they matter, to whom they matter, when they matter, and then most importantly, helping someone on the other side of the desk become just as excited as you are about those differentiators. So one of the challenges I see all the time in companies, I hear executives and salespeople say, gosh, we should never have to fight over price. Our differentiators, they're so meaty, so powerful, but they're unable to get someone on the other side of the desk just as excited as they are about them. And here's the deal. If you can't get someone on the other side of the desk just as excited as you are about your differentiators, you may as well not have them, because the only conversation you're going to have is price. And Andy, so often people ask me about the biggest mistake that I see that people make when it comes to sales differentiation strategy. And that's just tossing out differentiators and leave it to the other person to figure out what it means and why it matters. That's deal suicide. You're just not going to go anywhere if that's the approach you take. So they say, we're the biggest, we're publicly traded. And we expect someone on the other side of the desk to go, I know why that matters to me. I know why that's meaningful. They won't. If you do that, if you just toss out differentiators and leave it to the other person to figure out, one of two very bad things happens. Either they never figure it out, or they give it a meaning that's not going to advance your deal.
Right. It's not of value. They don't see the value. They don't know what that value is. Exactly. So, I wanted to ask you, what else are you working on these days also?
Yeah, so I have a new book in development titled Sell Different. It'll be out in September of this year, published by HarperCollins. And it builds off the sales differentiation strategy that you read about in the book titled Sales Differentiation. It adds a whole new segment, 15 more strategies to outsell the competition.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing that, reading that. And what's the best way for people to connect with you, Lee?
Probably I would say my website, which is salesarchitects.com. So SalesArchitects.com. You can find the book Sales Differentiation on Amazon, whatever your favorite bookstore is. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Very good. Lee, I really appreciate what you're doing. Totally agree with what you're doing. And I really appreciate you coming on with me today. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Trucking Tower Podcast, Sales Tips. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.